will never forget. But before I begin, let me warn you, what you're about to hear may completely change how you see yourself, women, and relationships forever. Most men will hear this truth, nod their heads, and then do nothing. They'll go back to the same patterns, the same habits, the same failures. But a small percentage, the rare 2%, will take this and rewire their reality. And those men, their entire lives with women will never be the same again. Yesterday, in a quiet little cafe, I witnessed something that explains why most men stay invisible to women for their entire lives. Picture this: a young man, maybe 25 years old, good-looking, well-dressed, even stylish. He had that polished appearance, fresh haircut, clean shoes, nice watch. On paper, he seemed to have it all, and yet I sat there and watched him for 37 minutes straight. He was focused entirely on the girl sitting across from him, hanging on to every word she said. But here's the heartbreaking part. Every move he made failed. Every smile, every compliment, every attempt to impress her, it all fell flat. And the most shocking thing, he believed he was doing everything right. That's the tragedy. That's the problem. And here's the cold truth. That man is you. Because 99% of men do exactly this. They act out a script they think will work. A script that was programmed into their minds from childhood. A script that makes them invisible to women without them even realizing it. And today, I'm going to show you how to rewrite that code. But listen carefully. Most men will never have the courage to do it. Pause for a moment and be honest with yourself. How many times have you felt you did everything right with a woman only to watch her vanish, ghost you, or choose someone who didn't even try? Think back. Don't lie to yourself, because this is not bad luck. This is not fate. It's psychology. It's mathematics. And until you learn their rules, you're destined to lose the game. Here is the cruel irony. Every man thinks he is special. Every man believes his situation is different. He thinks that because he's kind, or dresses well, or makes her laugh, sometimes he deserves a different outcome. But it doesn't matter. If your mindset is wrong, everything else becomes irrelevant. It's like trying to run Windows software on a Mac. No matter how brilliant the program is, it will never work. And that is you, every time you deal with women. So, let me ask you something real. How many times have you had an incredible conversation with a woman? Everything felt perfect. And then out of nowhere, she simply disappeared. How many times have you been the ideal man? Played every step by the book, only to watch her choose someone who didn't even try. Be honest with yourself. This has happened more than once, hasn't it? And you told yourself, maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe I just had bad luck. Maybe it's destiny. No. Stop lying to yourself. It's not luck. It's not destiny. It's not the universe plotting against you. It's mathematics. It's psychology. It's you playing a game without even knowing the rules. I remember when I was 20 years old. That was the night I discovered a brutal truth. A truth that would change everything. I was at a party. I had my best shirt on, perfect manners, polite smile, standing quietly in the corner. I was polished. I was careful. I thought I was doing everything right. But do you know what I was? Invisible, like a ghost. And then there was Alex. Alex was not handsome. Alex was broke. Alex dressed like he had stolen his clothes from a stranger sleeping on the street. And yet, 3 women, yes, 3, were fighting for his attention, laughing at his jokes, touching his arm, competing for his gaze, while I stood there wondering, what the hell is happening? How is this even possible? That night burned itself into my memory. because it was the first time I realized something no one ever teaches men. Women are not drawn to your resume. They are not impressed by good intentions. They don't fall in love with how desperately you want their approval. In fact, here's the brutal paradox. The more you like them, the less they want you. It's reverse mathematics. The harder you try, the faster you fail. And I know what you're thinking right now. But that doesn't make sense. Exactly. That's why 98% of men fail. Because they keep trying to solve what is actually an emotional game with rational logic. Think about it. The software running your mind was installed when you were 5 years old. Your mother told you be nice to girls. Your teacher said, respect the ladies. Society whispered, happy wife, happy life. But here's the twist. No one ever told you. None of this has anything to do with attraction. You've been trained to become what women secretly do not want. A loyal golden retriever, but what they truly crave. Not a monster. Not a hostile jerk, but something far more primal. A wolf, not a hungry wolf. Not a desperate wolf, but an autonomous, unpredictable, independent wolf. A man who owns himself, his reality, his presence. And here's where most men fail. They collapse the moment a beautiful face appears. Pause and think about this. When was the last time you were truly excited by something predictable? When was the last time a movie with no conflict, no drama, no tension kept you hooked? Never. Because humans, and women especially, are wired for emotional stimulation. They crave the unknown. They crave the push and pull. They crave the challenge. And if you can't give them that, you'll always be invisible. That night with Alex, it took me years to understand. But that was the moment I realized. Attraction is not about being nice. It's about polarity. Moments where you either raise emotional tension or kill it. And most men, they're terrified of tension. They smooth everything over. She seems restless. You joke. She challenges you. You submit. She tests you. You try harder to please her. And in the process, you destroy the very tension that creates desire. Because here's the truth. Comfort is the enemy of desire. Think about this carefully. Every conversation you have with a woman is filled with what I call polarity points. Moments where you either raise or lower emotional tension. Most men are terrified of tension. They do everything they can to smooth it over. She seems restless. You crack a joke to calm her. She challenges you. You immediately submit. Nod. Agree. She tests you. You try harder to please her. You're so busy chasing her approval. You don't even realize you're destroying attraction in the process. Because here's the truth. Comfort is the enemy of desire. Ask yourself this. When was the last time you were truly excited by something completely predictable? Was it a movie with no conflict? A story with no twists? A game with no challenge? Never. Because human beings, especially women, are wired for emotional stimulation. They crave push and pull. They crave ambiguity. They crave tension. They crave a challenge. And here's the painful reality. Most men behave like walking instruction manuals. Page 1, I like you. Page 2, I'll do anything for you. Page 3, please choose me. And the conclusion, boring, predictable, forgettable. Listen to me carefully, because this is where 98% of men fail. They believe attraction is built on adding more compliments, more texts, more effort. But women don't fall for more. They fall for the man who dares to create space, who dares to disagree, who dares to let tension exist. Now let me be clear. I am not telling you to become cruel. Stupid men hear this and think, oh, so women like tension. That means I should be a jerk. Wrong. Women do not like bad men. They like men who are independent, men who own their body, their words, their reality, men who don't collapse the moment a pretty face enters the room. Here's the irony. The so-called bad boy often has these qualities, not because he's better, but simply because he doesn't care. He's careless, reckless, detached, but you don't need to destroy yourself to be attractive. You don't need to become cruel or arrogant or manipulative. You can have the exact same independence, the exact same confidence without losing your decency. And that combination, that's the perfect storm. Let me give you a practical example. You meet a woman online. She's stunning. The type of woman men fight to get the attention of. What's your instinct? To send the perfect opener. Something clever, something witty, something that proves you're unique. And right there, you've already lost. Why? Because your entire approach depends on her reaction. You're not expressing yourself. You're performing. You're not speaking. You're auditioning, and she can smell it instantly. Just like a shark smells blood in the water, she can sense when you're performing for her approval. So what do you do instead? Simple. You write what makes you laugh. You say what entertains you. You send messages like a man who has 10 other options. And this is just one more conversation in your full exciting life. That energy, that self, amusement, that groundedness, that's what cuts through the noise. That's what makes her stop, pause, and think, who is this guy? Here's where most men crash and burn. Even when they understand this idea, they try to fake it. They pretend not to care, while inside they're desperate. They act alpha, while deep down they still feel beta. They try to look confident, but inside they're terrified of rejection. And here's what you need to understand. Women have been studying male behavior since they were teenagers. They've seen every trick. They've heard every line. They've observed every move men make. And their radar, it's sharper than a lie detector. You cannot fake this. You must become it. Let me share a story. About 3 years ago, I met a woman. The kind of woman who makes men reorganize their entire lives. Just for the chance to see her again. We were talking and everything was flowing perfectly until she said something I completely disagreed with. The old me would have nodded politely, smiled, and stayed agreeable because I thought that's what she wanted. But this time, I looked her in the eye and said, "That is the most ridiculous thing I've heard all day. This morning, I spoke to my neighbor. She genuinely believes birds are government spies. And honestly, her theory makes more sense than what you just said." She froze. Her eyes widened in shock. And then she laughed. Then she leaned in with curiosity. Why? Because every other man in her life agreed with everything she said. I was the first one to treat her like a real human being, instead of a goddess on a pedestal. When you elevate a woman too high, you force her to look down on you. It's not romance. It's physics. It's geometry. She cannot respect someone who worships her, because worship creates inequality, and attraction cannot exist without respect. Just like you can't feel desire for someone you're not physically drawn to, she cannot feel desire for someone who erases all tension. This is the biggest mistake men make. They think attraction is addition. Add more compliments. Add more texts. Add more availability. But the truth, attraction is subtraction. Subtract your constant presence. Subtract your need for instant replies. Subtract your obsession with pleasing her. Because the space you create is where desire begins. Think about your phone for a second. If someone always replies instantly, is always available, always saying yes, how valuable are their messages to you? Not valuable at all, because what's always accessible becomes worthless. But when someone sometimes replies, sometimes doesn't, sometimes shows interest, sometimes pulls away, suddenly you find yourself staring at your phone, wondering, what are they doing? Why haven't they answered? What's going on in their world? That curiosity, that tension, that is the seed of attraction. That's the position you must be in, not the other way around. Now, here's what will happen to most men watching this video. They'll nod along, agree with everything I just said, maybe even take notes. But tomorrow their old programming will take control. The nice guy protocol will reactivate, and they'll go back to doing exactly what they've always done. Because here's the truth. Understanding this isn't enough. You can't just watch a video and magically transform your behavior. This requires more than information. It requires practice. It requires failure. It requires reconditioning. I know because I lived it. When I first started experimenting with this new perspective, I failed beautifully. I overcorrected. I went from being too nice to being too indifferent, from always available to completely disappearing, from polite to unnecessarily confrontational. And yet, here's the shocking part. Even my mistakes were more attractive than my old perfect nice guy behavior. Even when I stumbled, even when I got it wrong, women were more drawn to me than when I was being the polite, agreeable, predictable ghost. Everything shifted. Do you want to know when this finally clicked for me? I was on a date with a stunning woman, the kind men stop and stare at when she walks by. Halfway through the date, I realized something. I was bored. She was beautiful, yes, but not interesting. And instead of pretending, instead of faking enthusiasm just because she was attractive, I told her the truth. You're gorgeous, but this conversation is putting me to sleep. I'm going home. Honestly, Netflix will be more interesting. And I left. Guess what happened? She called me that night. She chased me the next day. This woman who had men chasing her for years was suddenly chasing me. Not because used some technique, not because I played a game, but because I genuinely valued my time and my attention more than her beauty. Let that sink in. Real power doesn't come from lines, tricks, or games. Real power comes from standards, from valuing your time, your energy, your presence more than her looks. That is what makes you unforgettable. And here's where most men fail again. They only have one standard. Is she attractive? That's like buying a car, only because it looks nice, without ever checking if the engine works. You're setting yourself up for disaster. Real standards go deeper. Is she interesting? Does she add value beyond her appearance? Does she bring energy, curiosity, or inspiration into your life? When you start asking these questions, everything shifts. You stop acting like a man begging for approval and start acting like a man offering an opportunity. Now, let's talk about one of the most feared topics for men, the friend zone. Every man fears it, but very few actually understand why it exists. Women place men in the friend zone when they feel no romantic respect for them. And how do you get there? By acting like a friend when you actually want to be a lover. You earn it by being the nice guy. Always available, always agreeable, always desexualized. You pretend from day one. You bury your real desire under fake friendship. And then you act shocked when she feels nothing for you. Let me give you a real example. I knew a man named Mike. Mike befriended every woman he was attracted to. He became their emotional support, their unpaid therapist, their assistant, their safe space. And months later, he would confess his feelings. And every time he was rejected, every time his heart was shattered. And you know what Mike always said? But I was so nice to her. Exactly. That was the problem. You weren't attractive. You weren't sexual. You weren't emotionally charged. You were like a brother, a girlfriend, a pet. And pets don't get chosen. Listen carefully, because this is the cure to the friend zone. If you see a woman in romantic terms, she must know it. Not through a dramatic confession, months later, but through your actions, your energy, your intent from day one. Now don't get me wrong. This doesn't mean you need to be pushy or creepy. It means you need to let your masculine energy come through from the beginning. Flirt subtly, tease her, let her feel the charge. Not hidden intentions, not fake friendship, not manipulation, but genuine polarity. Because here's the truth. Women are not turned off by kindness. They are turned off by fake kindness. They are not disgusted by friendship. They are disgusted when friendship is a disguise for unspoken lust. The solution is balance. Be attractive first, then be nice. Take the lead. Bring vitality into the interaction. Kindness should be like a spice, added in small amounts to enhance the flavor, not dumped all over the plate until the dish is ruined. Be sexual, but never creepy. Be confident, but never arrogant. Be a challenge, but not impossible. It's a balance, but it can be learned. Here's the good news. You can start practicing this today. No waiting, no theory, just small actions that will rewire the way women respond to you. Let's start with something simple. Texting. The next time you're about to text a woman, pause for 1 second. Before you hit send, ask yourself, am I sending this to get a reaction from her? Or am I sending this because it entertains me? If the answer is the first one, delete it. If it's the second, send it. This one small filter will change the entire dynamic of your communication, because suddenly your words will no longer come from neediness. They'll come from self-amusement, from confidence, from freedom. And that energy is magnetic. Here's another practice. Learn to disagree, not with everything, not just to be difficult, but when you truly disagree, say it. No, I don't think so. That movie was awful. I see it differently. Start small. Don't pretend to mirror her opinions, just to stay safe. Instead, express what you truly believe. And here's what will shock you. The more politely you disagree, the more intrigued she becomes. Why? Because it shows strength. It shows independence. It shows you don't need her approval. It shows you see her as a normal human being, someone who can be wrong, rather than a goddess whose words must be worshipped. Let me give you a story. About a year ago, I was talking to a woman who told me she believed in astrology. The old me would have smiled, nodded, and said, "Oh, that's cool. Tell me more." But instead I said, "Astrology? That's just organized birthday racism." She froze. Then she laughed. And then she spent the next hour trying to convince me otherwise. Do you see what happened? Instead of me nodding silently while she talked, we had real dialogue, real energy, real polarity. This is the secret most men never learn. Women don't fall for approval. They fall for authenticity. They don't crave endless agreement. They crave polarity. And if you can give them that, you'll never be forgotten. Now here's the real secret. The piece that changes everything. You must become a man who does not need a woman's approval. Not act like him. Not fake it. Not put on a mask of confidence while trembling inside. You must become that man. How? By building a life that is genuinely fascinating. Have hobbies that fulfill you. Have goals that wake you up in the morning. Have rules and standards that actually matter to you. Because when your life is full, when your days are rich with things that excite you. Women stop being the center of your existence. And ironically, that's when they start wanting you most. Most men do the opposite. They leave their lives empty, and then they try to recruit women to fill the void. They treat women like emotional crutches, validation devices, proof that they are worthy. And here's the brutal truth. Women can sense this emptiness, like animals sense an earthquake, like sharks smell blood in the water. They know, consciously or not, that you're using them as proof of your value. And that pressure is too heavy. That responsibility is too much. So they run. Think about it. If she becomes your whole cake, what happens when she leaves? You're shattered, empty, desperate again. But if she's only the cherry on top, in addition to an already full life, you'll never lose your foundation. The men who are naturally magnetic, they aren't always the richest. They aren't always the most handsome, but they almost always share one thing. They have lives that are already full, even without women. They have passions. They have friends. They have goals. They have energy that fuels them. Women don't become the center of their lives. They become a part of them. And that's what makes these men magnetic. That's what makes them attractive. That's what you must become. Now let's talk about the moment of truth. Whether it's in person or online, most men show up with the energy of a job interview. Please choose me. Here are my credentials. Here's why I deserve the job of being your boyfriend. And that's exactly why they fail. Stop showing up like a man begging to be chosen. Start showing up like a man offering an opportunity. I am fascinating. I am entertaining. If you're worthy, maybe I'll allow you into my world. Do you see the shift? It's not arrogance. It's not narcissism. It's simply knowing your value. Because if you don't believe your time and your attention are important, why should she? This one change in perspective completely transformed my life. Is stopped thinking about getting women. I started thinking about choosing women. I wasn't chasing every woman I met. I was screening for women who fit my standards. And this changed everything. Suddenly my energy was different. My approach was different. Even my presence felt different. Because now I wasn't a man begging for approval. I was a man who already had value and was simply seeing if she was worthy of it. And here's the magic. When you start choosing instead of chasing, rejection doesn't hurt anymore. It's not failure. It's simply selection. She chose herself out of your life. And that's good. She just saved you time. But when you're chasing, when you're desperate for approval, every rejection feels like death. Every no feels like failure. I had to learn this the hard way. 4 years. I exhausted myself trying to convince women to want me, performing, impressing, persuading until I was drained. But when I flipped the frame, when I started choosing instead of chasing, everything shifted. Suddenly I had standards. Suddenly I was the prize. Suddenly women felt lucky to be chosen by me. And that is the frame shift that 98% of men will never make. But here's the part no one tells you. When you make this shift, when you stop seeking approval, when you stop being nice just to gain favor, something uncomfortable happens first. You will lose people. The women who fed on your attention without ever giving anything back. They'll vanish. The friends who loved your self-sacrifice. They'll be confused. Even your family might say, "You've changed. You've become selfish." And do you know what? Good. Let them whisper. Let them doubt. Let them talk. Because on the other side of this short, lonely season is something infinitely better. Genuine attraction, real connection, women who choose you for who you are, not for what you do for them. It's tragic. I've met men in their 40s and 50s who are still running the same outdated program, They learned at 15. Still trying to be nice as a strategy for attraction. Still hoping approval will somehow create desire. Still wondering why they fail year after year. Don't be that man. Do not waste decades playing a broken game. Make the change now. Yes, it will be uncomfortable. Yes, it will be terrifying. But do you know what's more terrifying? Staying the same, dying with regret, realizing too late that you lived your entire life chasing instead of choosing. Here's the truth. Everything I've told you is simple, but not easy. Simple because the ideas are clear. Not easy because you must reprogram decades of conditioning. Not easy because you must face rejection. Not easy because you must become someone new. And the world will resist it. Your friends will resist it. Your old self will resist it. But there's my promise. If you truly do this, if you change your perspective, if you practice what I've taught you, your entire world will change. Not just with women, but in every area of your life. Because the confidence that comes from no longer needing validation, the strength that comes from having standards, the freedom that comes from being genuine, those qualities transform everything. So, here's your assignment. But let me warn you, 98% of men will never do it. They'll nod, agree, maybe even rewatch this video, and then they'll go right back to their old programming. And 30 days from now, 30 years from now, they'll still be stuck in the exact same place. Don't be one of them. Be the 2%. Here's what you need to practice starting today. Detach from the result. Approach women without clinging to the outcome. Send messages that carry no need. Go on dates with no urgency. Just practice being present, being genuine, being satisfied with who you already are. That's it. Sounds simple, doesn't it? But that's the missing piece. That's what separates the men who attract effortlessly from the men who spend their whole lives chasing. No magic lines. No tricks, no pickup techniques, just one skill, the ability to stand strong as yourself and let women decide whether they want to join your world instead of you desperately trying to join theirs. Listen, I understand this video probably shattered everything you were taught to believe. Good. It should, because everything you were taught brought you here to a place you no longer want to be. So now the question is simple. Will you keep doing what has never worked? Or will you finally try something different, scarlet button or blue button? Old results or new opportunities? Comfort or expansion? And deep down, you already know which one you'll choose. You knew it before this video even ended. The only question is, when will you stop lying to yourself and finally act? That's all I have for you today. Take it or reject it. Use it or ignore it. But never again say that no one told you the truth, because now you know. And once you know, you can never go back.